Live on YouTube. Good morning, YouTube. Oh, let me put myself on.
All right. Good morning, YouTube. At your fingertips. Yeah, I was saying, Dara, that and of course we have Dara Lugina, who's an analyst with ARM Securities, which of course brings you Business Express every Tuesday. Okay, Shakwa, we're going in.
And we're going live on air now. Okay, here we are. It is gone past 6:30 for Tuesday morning. Welcome to Business Express on Smooth Breakfast. I'm Sope Martins, and joining me for the next 15 minutes, of course, you've come to expect the voice of Rotus. Good morning.
Good morning, Sope. Good morning to all our listeners, and good morning to our special guest from ARM Securities.
Yes. So joining us for today, we have got investment analyst with ARM Securities, Oluwadara Olunuga. Dara, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Sope. Good morning, Lagos.
All right. So we've got a lot to talk about. Let's jump into this. Before we do, though, do remember, join the conversation. We are streaming live up on youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos. Make sure you leave your comments up on that platform if you're not in the country and if you just want to join from there. And you can also send WhatsApp messages into 0809 440 981. So what are we talking about today?
Yeah, I was starting with COVID. I saw some data from Business Day newspaper saying that some testing labs have raked in about 26 billion naira from testing. And you know, some folks have because I know that there's a new. What is it now? Is it that we no longer have to wear masks? So there's some new updates on COVID. The business side, some of these labs have brought in some serious money. Dara, what do you make of the profits from some of these COVID testing labs?
So, Rotus, Lagos, a lot of crises create opportunities. That's just it. There are going to be winners and there are going to be losers. So, the part of the divide where you are determines what you make in, losses or profits. So, you know, the old theory of opportunity meets preparedness equals success. That is what's simply played out here. Obviously, in Lagos, in Nigeria, we've always talked about out-of-pocket medical expenses and how high it has always been. And that has created businesses for private sector to thrive in the healthcare businesses. And normally, if anyone has a disease, a terminal disease, or a very serious disease, you wouldn't want to go to government facilities. So that is what has made these private clinics, private testing laboratories, thrive in Nigeria. And that's why when you see that coming on board of COVID, they had the facilities to take the number of tests, the number of people that were coming, the number of international travelers that came in. So it's justifiably so because they've built the facilities, and when the opportunity came, they were able to take advantage of them. So on the other hand, it speaks to how much people are spending on healthcare. Like I said, about the last I checked, more than 75% of healthcare expenses come from out of pocket. Irrespective of what the government is doing, irrespective of what healthcare insurance has been, preaching over time. So it just exposes the inadequacies in the government sector because healthcare should be, at the forefront of, government policies and, the budget. The allocation for healthcare and education should be around 15%, but that's not what we see, currently. So that's just it. They were prepared. The government wasn't. And it exposes the inadequacies of the system, and then private sector made money. That's just it.
They really did. So is the bonanza over? Because I think there's a new update on PCR tests, which I can't remember.
Yes, so the new policy took place from yesterday, and for fully vaccinated passengers who are coming into Nigeria, they no longer have to take a PCR test, and also yes, I think that's it. And they will no longer have to do post-arrival PCR tests as well, or so rapid antigen tests.
So that should reduce their bonanza, Nabi.
You would think so, because a lot of countries have allowed, travelers to come in even without COVID. Some people say the Omicron, this new variant, is not as serious as the previous variant, and it seems like the world has moved on. Especially with other big issues to sort of think about. So COVID is almost like being sidelined on the table. And then you may want to think that the revenue that they're making from this line of business may reduce subsequently. Although there's now the rapid test, which is much faster, and that should also bring revenue, but the revenue has declined subsequently. But another thing you should think about is the fact that we are still going to have this issue of the public Nigerians relying on private sector for healthcare If you look at what's happening with the doctors, yesterday NMA put the numbers at 9,000 doctors that have fled the country in this administration alone. So if you continue to look at what's happening to healthcare, on the bright side, it is a viable investment opportunity for the private sector, for individuals, but on the part of the government, it means that a lot of people are still going to lose their lives because of negligence, because of the way the facilities have been. Because imagine if this revenue had gone to the government purse instead of the private sector, if we had the facilities and we could take the test, even if it has been subsidized, that's going to do a lot for our budget during the pandemic. So it still means that the focus on healthcare is still very tepid. Doctors are fleeing. Is still a viable sector for investments, but for the ordinary man that will not be able to afford the services of the private sector healthcare system, then it brings the question of how do we survive? And in the case, COVID was unplanned. So in the case of an outbreak that wasn't planned, we have Lassa fever, we have a lot of things that have been battling that has already weakened the healthcare system, the very weak healthcare system already prior to COVID. So in the case of an outbreak, in the case of another, of just any other healthcare crisis, we are not prepared to take that on. So that's the aspect I would like to look at.
Thanks for that. So I guess, is this the other side of capitalism where no matter what, somebody makes money, disease and war? That's how it is, yeah?
Yes, every crisis comes with opportunity. So it's the best question of who is ready to grab the opportunity, who is prepared, who has even the war, even the oil issues. There are countries that are making in money because the production levels have been very, very good over time compared to that we have 90% oil theft on some fields already. Do you get? So, and there are even a great opportunity for countries that are able to roll out grains, or given that Russia and Ukraine account for like a third of the world grain production, especially in wheat. So there will always be opportunity for capitalism. There will always be opportunity for prepared individuals and countries to take advantage of during crisis.
Issues like. I mean, isn't that the whole point of business? There's a demand.
Exactly.
You meet it with your supply. You make some money. Yeah, that's all, folks.
Yeah,
exactly. What else is going on? The aviation sector. There's been this. What do you make of what's been going on in aviation with aviation fuel? There looks like the domestic airlines have been struggling. There's talk of hedging, but I don't know how well that is going to assist the airline. That's hedging. That's buying fuel today for delivery later to try to save yourself from price increases. How do you think that's going to work out?
So ideally, a business, even on a business level now, businesses are meant to be able to hedge what you call their major input costs. So for the aviation, that's the major input cost. So you look at your balance, your income statements, what inputs takes about 50% of your cost, and you want to hedge it. Hedging means you're tying it to a price to be able to buy in future. So I'm entering a contract with Rotus to say you're going to sell fuel for me at $60 per barrel in the future. Even though it is $50 per barrel, I have to buy from you and then making my losses. But then if it's more expensive, say it's $80 and I've tied in $60 per barrel, then I'm better off, right? And these contracts are done in foreign currency. That's where the issue is. These contracts are not done in naira. These contracts are done mostly in dollars. Even for every derivative contract, every hedging contracts are done in dollars, especially given that the oil is quoted in that international benchmark dollar. So where the issue comes in is if you look at the trajectory over time of dollar, you see that we have an history of consistently weakening in the dollar, especially since I think 2014. So imagine if you were like, there's this joke on the street that if you had invested $1 million or $100,000 in 2014, you're a big man now without doing anything. It's the same way if you invested in the naira without doing anything, without losing money in the naira, you'd have lost money in real terms because of the movements in dollar prices. So airlines cannot hedge. I don't know if you see recently, even in the black market, the rates have been moving northwards, moving close to 600 naira. And like you've always said, our naira dollar rules is tied to whatever happens in the international oil markets, whatever happens with our trading partners, and whatever happens to global economy, because we get about 80% of our foreign exchange earnings from oil. So even there's oil prices are trending at $100 per barrel, but we can't tap that because of what is happening to production. So you see that these fundamental problems brings more fundamental problems and bring more hardship on the ordinary man. So it means that the aviation sector cannot tie the fortune of their input costs to so they can't lock in a particular amount because they'll be worse off if anything happens to the naira. So imagine them locking off $60 per barrel. even if oil prices trade cheaper, say $59 per barrel, but exchange rate has moved to 600 or 650, we might like to say, God forbid, it means that they are still worse off in that contract, even though oil prices are cheaper. So it is not easy to tie something to where you can't build models for exchange rates in Nigeria. For instance, it might be a joke at the end of the day, because whatever happens to the CBN, whatever the CBN decides to do, even after several encouragements from the multilateral organization to say, please float the currency, we know that that's not going to happen in the remaining 2 years where we have Emefiele as governor. So that is the major problem. So the airlines have to take it as it comes. They can't lock in their future costs. They have to take the cost as it comes. And now that oil prices that were doing $60 per barrel is now currently at $100 per barrel, you can imagine that would be a doubling in the cost. And for a sector that is not able to pass on cost enough to say, oh, Lagos Abuja will just suddenly go from 50,000 to 100,000. That wouldn't work because people will opt for the road. So it means that they may increase prices, but not as fast as their input costs are rising. And that then creates the losses where you have for the companies are in that space.
Thank you for that. Very in-depth. Very, very in-depth. Thank you, Dara. I also wanted to get your thoughts on Hadi Sirika, aviation minister. I think it was yesterday. He said that, what is it now? Emirates is Nigeria on this his national carrier that he's been going on for like 2-3 years now. What do you make of this latest development?
So, I mean, I will take it from the angle of the fact that we've always advocated for, development in infrastructure. And at a point, we're recommending that, say, we have a lot of infrastructural problems. We have electricity. As we speak now, the powers that be might decide to cut us all off from this call. So we are saying that there should be partnership with countries. We have oil, we have gas that will continue to flare. I think yesterday there were reports of about some billions of naira that we continually lose every year to gas flaring. We could just imagine how much we could have tapped the opportunity of, Europe moving on to look for other sources of gas from Russia. Although we know it's not easy because of the infrastructure that have been built along that line. But we can't tap that because we don't have that. We are not prepared to take the opportunity. So even before the other chief of staff died, the plan was to say, let us supply gas to Europe. Let's bring Siemens to take care of our electricity needs. Let's look at companies that can come, maybe Germany that can come, help us fix the airlines while we supply them something that we have. So we may not be getting money that will at the end of the day be looted and be missing, and we continue to see FCC dragging up people a lot of times to say missing funds. So let's just have a partnership where directly they come to fix our airlines, they come to fix the electricity, they come to fix the road, not the ones that we fix every 2 years. Let's let them come fix this where we supply them oil, where we supply them gas, and we move on from there. So that will continue to be our advocacy. We need to develop this infrastructure, and that cannot be determined, that can be dependent on how much we make ourselves or how much borrowings that we continue to do, which is another topic for another day, how much unsustainable our debt levels are risen to. So it will make sense if you can see that kind of partnership, but implementation is another thing. You see, we've seen a lot of agreements, a lot of oral agreements that have said, oh, this person is coming, we're partnering with this, we're partnering with that. Who sees these agreements through? We've seen cases that even in the ministries, some people boycott agreements so that we can pay fines at the end of the day. And there are a lot of backdoor agreements that goes on with all of this. So what is the implementation going to be like? Because as much as we hate to admit it, the corruption has eaten deep to the root of this country, and it's just tough. So the implementation is key. And if you can see more partnerships like this that will not involve us going to borrow, where we can exchange and do the usual trade by barter, give oil, give gas, and get something in return, it really makes sense for the economy. Imagine you can just go to Lagos and walk from Akure to Lagos. Yeah. We keep building infrastructure and they keep coming to target them. Let me just allow you.
Thank you so much, Dara. So that was our guest, Oluwadara Olunuga, who's an investment analyst with ARM Securities, on today's episode of Business Express, as brought to you by ARM Securities. Thank you so much for joining us today. To continue the conversation, by the way, we did have a message in from Yinka Bolu, who said we can't just stop at a 20 billion naira windfall for the labs. We hope FIRS got their share of it in the form of cash. Yeah.
Well,
And he
that's
goes on to
another
talk about-
case anyways.
he goes on to talk about to think that in this same country, a bottle of sanitizer went for as high as 6,000 naira, and one nose mask went as high as 500 naira. I remember those days. But yes, like I said, we've come to the end of the show. Make sure you go and catch Rotus, continue the conversation on Twitter at Rotancoat, right there on Twitter. Thank you so much.
Dara, is Dara on Twitter? Are you on Twitter as well, Dara?
Yes. Olunuga Dara.
Cool.
Simple. I like it. All right, and
Thanks.
that is that. Goodbye.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. Bye.
you.
Have a great day.
Bye. You too. And that is that. Coming up, it is great music to see you through on to 7:30 when we have Freshly Pressed.
Express on Smooth 98.1.